Hey, folks, we are doing a little something different. This is called What's Going On Beyond. So, as we go beyond and our annals of sports, because Ryan couldn't let us get away because he wanted to talk about baseball. And I could dig it because I'm happy. And you said this might be one of the nicest things that the Mets have done in a long time. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, Greg. But I need you because the Mets did get a Milwaukee Brewer, a pitcher. Ryan, who did the Mets get from Milwaukee?
The leader in wins in the National League. I mean, if you really care about that stat anymore, but Freddie Peralta, somebody that I would have liked to see in pinstripes, is now playing and the new ace of the New York Mets. But it did come at a cost. And that's what I wanted to talk to our MLB expert, the great Greg Vaughn, about. It wasn't like they traded him for nothing. They gave up the future for a guy that's not going to be there for the future unless they sign him right now. I think it's going to be a chase for Freddie Peralta. But Greg, what do you think? I was bashing David Stearns a little bit last week. He gets Bo Bichette. He trades for Freddie Peralta. He leaves me looking kind of crazy. But do I look that crazy? What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
He also got the guy Lewis. What's his name? What's the
Luis
other guy again?
Roberts.
Lewis Roberts. So, Greg, he gave up some pieces for that. What do you think, GM Greg?
I'll put my GM hat on. For me, I think with Peralta, to get someone of that quality, you're going to have to give up something. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I mean, he's an innings guy. You know, he's proven what he can do year in year out, and I think it's smart to go get him because after this year, with the collective bargaining agreement, you don't know what and where the state of the game is going to be, right? Because right now you have the haves and the have-nots. You have guys making $60 million. You have guys, and then the gap between the next level is the have and the have-nots, and they're just trying to fill it
Mm-hmm.
in. So I think these guys are trying to stack their chips. So when the piece is called and the new agreement come out, they already have their guys, right? And they won't be affected that way. I think with what they gave up, the Mets have to try to sign him, and they're probably trying to do that right now. So he isn't a one and done and walks because I mean, unless you're playing for the World Series, I mean, you do this at the All Star break and with no intention of signing him. But we're doing it at the beginning of the year. I think you're making a statement saying we want him to be our guy. And Milwaukee's had him for at $8 million. It's been probably the best valued bargain in baseball over the last 5 years. With how well he's pitched. I mean, it's a win for the Mets. I think the Mets have stepped it up. Like I said 2 weeks ago, you and my brother Nate were both crying about your teams, the Yankees and the Mets, not doing absolutely anything at all. And you're calling for the head of the GMs. Ryan, you even saying Cashman, it was time for him to go. Now all of a sudden you got Bellinger back and you got the Yankee hats on. So when you say there's no crying in baseball, you two brothers right here are not an example of that because you cry every
Come
other
on,
minute.
man. It ain't no crying in baseball. But I need to ask you another question, Mr. 355. Because last year during the World Series, I really fell in love with Bo Bichette. And you said that, and I said that, boy, it wouldn't be great if the Mets could get a guy like that. What do you think about his signing, Greg?
No, I think, I mean, you're talking about the guy that led the league in hitting with runners in scoring position. You're talking about a guy that missed significant time and still, put up the numbers that, you don't see guys doing unless they're special. So they have a they have a player that's special. The objective is going to be able to keep him healthy. Now he's going to a new position playing third base where I think, you take some of the workload off him. But once again, I think with his mentality, knowing him, I played with his dad. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think the Mets have another quality person, with Lindor. I think now that the Mets need to make sure, like most teams, but the Mets especially need to make sure when they do give away these big contracts that they get a good clubhouse guy, right? They have to make sure these guys play for the name on the front, not just the back. So I think, you know, they checked all the boxes in this one. I think the Mets did a good job, and I think the Yankees did what they had to do. I mean, if anyone needed to keep or add a piece, it was the Yankees, right? They needed to keep him in the pinstripes, and I think he went out there to test his waters in Bellinger, and he didn't get the type of attraction that he thought he was going to get, right? So he had to come back to the pinstripes, which is probably, besides the Dodgers, the best place in the world to play baseball.
I guess we can agree on one thing
So,
around
so,
here,
so,
besides the Dodger part.
so, Ryan, question for you, Ryan, because I need you to. I'm going to ask you this. You think with the Mets having this kind of lineup, if they get some pitching, because Greg said this, can they at least compete a little bit with the Dodgers? Can
It
somebody?
would
Because
be
I'm looking
an
at, can somebody
absolute
compete with
tragedy.
the Dodgers?
No, they cannot compete with the Dodgers. This must have been what people felt like in the 1950s, why they made a play called "Damn Yankees." The next play is going to be "Damn Dodgers." No, they cannot compete with the Dodgers. But there's that off chance, just like any year, that there could be a fluke and injuries and who knows what else could happen. But no, I don't think it's a strong enough roster to beat the Dodgers. Way better than last year's Mets team. Way less frustrating. And Bo Bichette just seems like a cool guy. I think that it's kind of a risk to put him at third base, considering I watched him play at Yankee Stadium and he didn't have the hardest arm from shortstop. He was, I think, one of the worst ranked defensive shortstops. Now to put him to a brand new position when Brett Beatty was kind of working out. I thought Brett Beatty was kind of getting it together towards the end of the year. But hey, it's a huge addition, and he just seems like a great guy. He's a great hitter, one of the best contact hitters in baseball. So it definitely strengthens the Mets lineup. Look, the Mets made us all eat our words. After losing Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz, they're rolling the dice with Devin Williams, losing the best closer in baseball. But, Devin Williams, I saw him and how frustrating he was in pinstripes, but he was on the Brewers. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball.
And he's reunited with his boy Peralta too. So
Yes.
he has a familiar face over there. So that being said, I think, you're frustrated about maybe Bo going to third base, but I think with Bo being at third base, it takes the workload off him. It keeps him healthier because you're not. It's not the pressure of playing shortstop. Shortstop is the quarterback. Besides the catcher of the of the defense of the team, right? So I think it gets him away from having to make, as you say, as a quarterback, all the calls, being in all the different positions, and cuts down his area of service, right? He'll be at the third base side, and who knows, he might make out to be like a Manny Machado, right? Because Manny was a shortstop to him with the third base, and usually, hey, you look at Merrill for the Padres, shortstop moves to center field. More often than not, these moves work out better when it is a position change, because these guys have been playing that shortstop position for a high level, and it's like a walk in the park when they get moved.
Okay, so
Well, the
check
Mets
this out.
also
This, hold on, Ryan, this quickly, because my brother said this. He said that's okay, but what about the bench, Ryan? What
yeah, I
about the
mean,
Mets bench? See, that's what my brother's like, very pragmatic. He said, "Oh, that sounds good, bub. But what about the Mets bench? Who do they have on the bench if somebody goes down, Ryan?"
well, they don't have Luis Acuna Jr. anymore, and I think the
There
White
you
Sox might
go.
end up winning that trade because I think he could develop into something. They just had such a stacked infield, which is another reason why. I mean, I get it. You have to sign Bo Bichette if you can get him. I would
Well,
have
they
loved
had to.
to.
Simeon took his spot, right? Simeon's the
That's right.
second baseman. So when you traded for Simeon, you're basically saying, this guy is, we're going to move. We are trying to compete and win now. And so by the Phillies keeping, the catcher and Schwarber, and the Dodgers doing what they're doing, New York has to do something to be able to compete in the East, right? So they had to be able to do something that, and like I said, there's, you can't get better without giving up something. Those days are over with, because the have-nots who have great players and are unwilling to pay them, they are the asking price is going to be high.
Hmm.
So, I think all around they won. I think if your guy from the White Sox, the center fielder, can play up to his ability, he can be a superstar. I mean, if he plays like he's capable of playing, I mean, you're talking about power, defense, arm, but once again, is do you post? You got to be able to post. You got to be able to play. If you don't post,
Hmm.
and we can see that in the NBA with Anthony Davis now. When you can't post, hey, on to the next, right?
Yep.
And I think you don't give up a talent like the center fielder from the White Sox. They just got frustrated of him not posting.
It's a win now move. It's an absolute win now move. Jet Williams, at one point, I don't know if he still is, but he was the number one prospect in baseball, according to some. That's a pretty big win for the Brewers there. So look, they're an absolute win now move and surgical moves to build a great team very quickly. So you do got to give it to David Stearns to not just sit there. This is definitely a playoff team with
but with those two guys that they traded, whether it's Jet Williams or the pitcher, are they big leaguers right now, or do you have the patience to wait a year or two, right? Because if that's the case, then you would have put Jet Williams at second base because of Lindor, right?
Yep.
Jet Williams is a big, strong kid, plus hitter, plus runner, contact guy. You move him to second base. But when you made that trade for Simeon, that went out the door. I mean, when you signed Simeon, sorry, and then you make a trade for Bo Bichette, but then you had Acuna Jr. at second base. So were any of these guys in their plans? Who knows?
I don't even know why they traded for. I mean, I guess it was Nimmo, right? Didn't they trade Nimmo?
Yeah,
for Simeon. Yeah, I remember.
I think they needed an upgrade there because they needed someone else to be able to give them some lightning in the bottle. And if Nimmo, they moved him to the top of the lineup, but I mean, you got to compete in that East, man. You got to steal some, but you got to do something. You got to get back to playing.
You have to manufacture runs, and the Mets didn't do that. If the Mets was hitting home runs, am I right or wrong? It wasn't like they was getting doubles by the yin yangs and the triples. And the only person that was stealing bases was like Starlin Marte. Okay.
They have 240 home runs. I don't know how many home runs Alonso hit, but they had guys that could hit home runs. Lindor, Alonso, Soto. They had guys that could hit home runs there last year.
No, but I get the home run part, but you're more athletic now. They're getting back to more of a
manufacturing runs.
Exactly.
More of a National League roster where, sometimes I need you to, if you hit a triple, give me a triple. Don't get me a single. If you can hit a double, if you can, guys that know how to play baseball, move runners, and no one did it better than Toronto
can
and
you
the Dodgers.
So can you bunt a man over? Okay. And all those things are the little nuances, like Greggy said, of baseball that they now, I think, have in that clubhouse, Greg.
Yeah, but they're definitely a lot better. You know what I mean? And you just got to get your guy Soto, who's a great kid. Like I said, I know him from when he was in San Diego. He's a great person, great kid. We need the Soto, the Soto shuffle when you're hitting 130 or 230 or you're 0 for 3 or 4 for 4. We need that Soto all the time because, like I said, usually the ball game is not lost in the ninth inning. There's something that happened that you didn't take advantage of or you didn't execute, 1 through 9, innings 1 through 9, and that it shows its head. Going back to the national championship game, missing the field goal right before halftime showed his head. You lose by 3 points, right? So there's always something that happens, and hopefully, the Mets, I think, are in a better position. They got younger, for sure. They got younger, without minus Simeon, but they did get younger. They're more athletic with Mullins and the cat from the White Sox, more athletic in the outfield. So, and maybe you move him to the corner and let Mullins play center field, and hey, you stay healthier there that way too. Or you put Soto in left and you move Big Boy to right. That's a pretty damn good outfield with Mullins out there, because the other two can go get it. And if Soto wants to play, he's very capable of doing the same thing. So they got better. It's just we'll see what happens. Everything looks good on paper. If that was the case, the Yankees would have 50 World Series championships because they were doing this way before the Dodgers were.
That's for damn sure. And when they were doing it, honestly, we weren't winning the way we should. Minus 2009. There was a voided trade, Greg, and I'm not sure if you saw it, but Tariq Skubal almost became a New York Yankee, but the Yankees rejected the offer. Did you hear what the Tigers asked for? You mentioned how we can't just take players anymore. Well, they wanted Cam Schlittler, Ben Rice, and George Lombard, all for essentially a rental. He's not even signed yet.
That's it.
Tariq Skubal. Yeah, welcome to the new MLB. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, to catching on to what the Yankees do.
That's it. I would have gave it up.
You would. Oh, so you would have done it. You would have pulled the trigger.
Yeah, but the only way I would have pull the trigger is give me a 2-week window to be able to negotiate a contract with them, an extension.
I wonder if that's what happened. I wonder if, because apparently this was about 2-3 weeks ago that this offer went out. And maybe that's why the Yankees were so quiet.
Give me a 2-week extension to see if I can sign him. Because if he doesn't go there, don't be surprised if he ends up in Seattle back home.
You did say that.
And if they get Seattle, gets him, watch out.
He is that good. And I'll say this. I've only seen Schlittler
they're already
pitch once
that good. And they're already that good. Seattle's already that good.
They are.
They are.
They definitely are. They actually put out the top 10 players in baseball. They ranked Cal Raleigh number 4 in the top 5 of Major League Baseball. Their official numbers that they put out.
Well, you think about what other catcher's doing, what he's doing. You take defensively, he's the best. Offensively, well, I would put him up there with Contreras in Milwaukee. I mean, or Contreras with him as far as 2 different leagues, though, right? But still, when you're talking about top 100, you're talking about both leagues. Defensively, he is the best or second best. Offensively, he's the best. So, and he posts every day. He posts
the hardest position.
Day.
Like, yeah, you really do got to give it to him. He really is. Yeah. I was looking at that list. Number 1, they obviously have Shohei. Number 2, the captain, Aaron Judge. 3, I believe, was Soto, or maybe it was Yamamoto, and Soto was 5 after Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, but as it should be. I mean, who's more valuable than Shohei? And as much as the captain does, who's more valuable than Shohei?
It's true. It is true. And how badass was that? I don't know if you saw the image that went viral. I guess it was from the World Series of Yamamoto taking the ball at the end of the World Series and Roki Sasaki looking at Dave Roberts and saying, really? Is he really doing this? And then he goes out to shut down the game. I mean, just Yamamoto, all-time epic pitcher, and he hasn't even been here that long. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Hey, and you know what? It's a good thing the Mets got Peralta because the Dodgers were on the verge of getting him too.
So, exactly.
Right.
And that would have been really, really, really unfair. Okay. Hey, Ryan, man, thanks for the extension, man.
Hey, thank you guys for the extra time. I had to talk some baseball while we have the great Greg Vaughn here. Sometimes I feel like we're talking. It's great to talk football. It's great to talk basketball. But, man, I got to admit, I'm just a sucker for talking about America's pastime. I really am.
No, I appreciate you fellas. Sorry, I was on the field the last 2 weekends, but I got out of there last night. So it's nice to be back. It's nice to be back in my own bed. But it's also, it was great to be on the field too. It was great to be able to don the uniforms that you used to wear. You know what I mean? And be with the guys that you went to battle with every day. And once again, my motto, at the end of the show is, man, let's make this world a better place. It doesn't cost anything to be nice to one another. And if you're a real Christian, it says, treat thy neighbor better than I treat thyself. So that's real Christianity. So I think that should be our motto of trying to make this place a better world, man. Come on.
You must have never had a bad neighbor, Greg. My God.
What's that?
You must have never had a bad neighbor.
No, hey, man, no, but that just tells you how deep Christianity is in the Bible. No matter how bad you get treated, you need to treat that neighbor better than you treat thyself.
Hallelujah. Amen.
Okay. Hey, man, Greg, thanks for hanging out with us. Ryan, thanks for the extension with the MLB. We're going to keep doing this. This is called the extension when we do this with what's going on, the experience.
Nate, right. Hey, 3 games left, man. 2 today, and then the Super Bowl. We're going to know after this show who's going to the big bowl.
Well, and we'll be doing that in our February frenzy. That's our February calendar. It's called February Frenzy. We got, all kind of stuff going on. Super Bowl, All-Star Game, CIAA, Winter Olympics, February Frenzy. Until next time, Ryan.
Hey, that's it. Over and out, folks. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us here on YouTube. And, of course, you can go to our website, Fox Sports Radio, WGO.com.
Right.
See you next
week.
Peace.